Module 7, Lesson 2 covers writing and solving one-step addition and subtraction inequalities. According to our lesson guide, it says that our content objective will be to write and solve one-step addition and subtraction inequalities. Duh. And the suggested pacing says this is going to be a quick and skinny one-day class. Due to safety regulations, some amusement parks set a minimum height for people on a ride. The height requirement is often set in place because the restraint system is designed for people with a minimum height. For example, to ride the bumper boats at a certain amusement park, the rider must be at least 36 inches tall. What, are they afraid the kid's going to fall out and drown? I mean, really, come on. If Zoe is 32 1/2 inches tall, what equation can be used to find the number of inches that she still needs to grow in order to meet the height requirement of 36 inches tall? These are the kind of things we're going to be learning about in this lesson. Now, for some reason, they went off and showed us this slide again, and you know what? We looked at this one last lesson, so we're just going to skip over this slide and go straight on to example 1, which says Dylan can spend at most $18 on go-kart rides and playing games at the state fair. Suppose the go-karts cost $5.50. Write and solve an inequality to determine the amount that Dylan can spend on the games if he rides go-karts just once. Then interpret the solution. Well, what do we know? We know that he has a total of $18 that he can spend. We know that a single trip on the go-kart, that's going to be $5.50, and $5.50 plus whatever he spends on the other games has to be less than or equal to the $18. Let's keep it moving forward, and we'll break that down a little bit further. Going to select our cards to see which the steps are for writing an inequality. First off, look at it in words. The cost of the go-kart ride plus the games is less than or equal to the total amount you can spend. Pretty much what I just told you. If we were to use variables for that, they said let x equal the cost of the game. So we've defined our variable, and after we define our variable, then we can write our inequality that says $5.50 plus x. It has to be less than or equal to the $18. And right there is the inequality we would need to use. Now that we have our inequality, we just have to solve it, and we're going to do this just like we did yesterday's lesson, where we took and isolated the variable, undoing the addition or subtraction from both sides. In this case, we're undoing the plus 5.5, and it's a positive 5.5 because of that invisible plus sign up in front of it. We're going to undo that by subtracting 5.5 on both sides of the equal sign. There's 0 out on the left, leaving you x is less than or equal to $12.50. So that means he has less than or equal to $12.50 in order that he can spend on the go-kart ride, or on the game, excuse me. Let's see if it likes it better without that. Yeah, with it being money, you really should use a 5-0. Finally, we're going to graph our solution set. It's going to be all numbers that are less than or equal to 1250. So we're going to take, since it's an or equal to, we're going to use a closed circle. We're going to start on that 12.5, and we're going to cover the numbers that are less than it. That means that we're going to be looking at a graph that looks just like that. Check our answer. The answer checks. That's all there is to doing these problems. The only difference between this and what we did last night was the fact that today we have to take and write the inequality before we can solve it. Now it's going to be your turn to solve a problem. They give you the word problem here. You've got to pick which inequality is correct. After you pick the inequality, you've got to solve the inequality. After you solve the inequality, then you get to take and, yep, add how much he ascended, and yeah, okay, well, yeah, excellent. So work on that problem, and I'll check back with you in a moment. James is scuba diving at negative 39 feet, and we'd use a negative number because he's going down, and anytime we're dealing with a down, that's going to be a negative. He's under the surface of the water. He ascends, that means he goes up a certain number of feet until he reached a depth of negative 20 feet. Write and solve an inequality to determine the number of feet that James ascended. Well, here we got a little issue because we're going for a precise answer, and they want it to be done as an inequality, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but hey, we'll play with their game anyhow. So what do we know? We know that he started at negative 19 feet. So that's going to be where we're going to start off our inequality at here. I'm sorry, negative 39. And then from there, we know that he ascended some distance, so we're going to call that, I don't know, D. And then from there, we're going to take and say that at that point he was above negative 20 feet. Okay, it will be an inequality because of the above. That means he's going to be at greater than negative 20 feet. Good so far? So from there, we're going to isolate our variable by doing addition and subtraction. This is minus 39, so I'm going to plus 39 on both sides. Oh, first off, let's go back before we even do that, see if we can match that inequality up with one of our answer keys. So negative 39 plus D, over they have plus F, is less than negative 20. Nope, I need is greater than negative 20. That means answer C. That part checked. All right, now we're going to solve our inequality. So I'm going to take and zero those out, which means D is going to be greater than. Signs are different. Find the difference with a sign from a larger number going in front of your answer. So D is going to be greater than 19. It can be the next part. So for that one, we have greater than 19, which means how far did he ascend? He ascended, let's go back and look at it. If it's greater than 19, that means he would be ascended at least 19 or more than 19 for our answer there. That's all there is to doing it. Example 2 says that Caleb owns 2 types of dogs. The difference between the height of his Yorkshire Terrier and his Great Dane is at least 25 inches. The Yorkshire Terrier has a height of 6 1/4 inches. I mean, that's like a dog that's this big. All right, that's a tiny little dog. I think that they grow bigger than that. Write and solve an inequality to determine the possible height of the Great Dane, and then interpret the solution. In words, what does this mean to us? It means that the Great Dane minus the Yorkshire Terrier's height is going to be at least, which means greater than or equal to, the 25 inches. They define the variable by letting h represent the height of the Great Dane, and from there, the inequality is going to say h minus the little dog is going to be greater than or equal to the difference between them of 25. That is the inequality that we're going to be using and solving as we continue to work through this problem. Isolate the variable. Now you know I don't like to see fractions worked vertically like this, but they worked it vertically. And now we're going to have to take a minute and come off to the side and do some grunt work to figure out what the solution to that is. Now, as I was saying, trying to work something like this vertically, it can really be a pain. It's just not something that's very user-friendly to do. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put my line through here. We'll put our h through here, greater than or equal to. And then I'm going to come off to the side and say 25 minus 6 1/4. I'm going to change both of those into improper fractions. That's going to give me a 25 over 1. Actually, I think I'm going to do that a little differently. Instead of doing that, I'm going to make this one 24 4/4 minus 6 1/4, because this one's laid out in a way that doing it this way would actually make perfect sense. 24 minus 6, that's going to give me 18. 4/4 minus 1/4, that's going to give me my 3/4. So my answer right here, h is going to be greater than 18 3/4. I'm going to jump back over to the page where we could put our answer in, which is right here, and we're going to put in our 18 fraction bar, 3 over 4, and check it. And uh-oh, what did I do wrong there? I'll tell you what I did wrong. I was running my mouth and not my brain. You see, what we have going on here is a plus sign. I subtracted. So if I take and change that to a plus, now I'm going to take and Change that one to a plus, and that's going to affect my overall answer. So now, in fact, I wouldn't even have to change that. So let's just get rid of all of that right there. And now we can just take and add it up. 25 plus 6, that's going to equal to 31 and 1/4. And that is what the answer would actually end up being. H is greater than 31 and 1/4. That's what the textbook picked for that part. So now that we have the inequality simplified, now we get to work on interpreting the solution, which means graphing it. We need to find the 31 and 1/4, which is going to be right here. We need to recognize it isn't or equal to, so it's going to have this solid circle, and we need to recognize that H is greater than it, so we're going to have to run an arrow to the greater side. We're going to start here, go that direction, and check it, and the answer checks. Easy math when you pay attention to what you're adding or subtracting. Finally, we need to answer the very last question here. The height of the Great Dane is going to be at least, exactly, or less than. It's going to be at least, and the answer was 31. Whoop, I said 31 and 1/4. Boy, I'm really screwing up my typing here. Inches. And there you have your answer. And that means the Great Dane is almost about 2.5 feet tall. I'm thinking that's a pretty puny Great Dane. I really do. But then it was a pretty puny little ragdoll dog too. Extra example 2 says that the difference between the high and low temperature on Monday was more than 37 degrees Fahrenheit. The low temperature on Monday was going to be -5 degrees Fahrenheit. Write and solve an inequality to determine the high temperature on Monday. Then interpret the solution. You've got to come up with which one of these is going to be the correct inequality. After you do that, you're going to have to pick the solution of the inequality, and then you're going to have to answer what the high temperature was going to actually be. So go ahead and pause the video and work on this, please. So what do I actually know? I know, whoa, what happened there? Somehow I got zoomed in here a bit, I think. Let's try that down there a bit again. I really zoomed in. I know that the difference between the high and low temperature, so the high plus low, is going to be greater than 37 degrees Fahrenheit. So my high plus my, actually not plus, the difference is going to be subtraction, so it's going to be the high minus my low is going to be greater than 37 degrees Fahrenheit. I also know that the low temperature was going to be a -5. So I'm going to have the high minus a -5. Whoa, this gets kind of tricky now. Is greater than 37 degrees. Make the ugly problem pretty. That says the high plus 5 degrees is greater than 37 degrees. And now we have to isolate the variable. We're going to subtract 5 from both sides. Those just zeroed out, and that's going to leave H is going to be greater than 42 degrees. That'll be my final solution. So first I need to find something that says that the high minus the -5 is greater than 37. So I got the temperature minus -5 is greater than 37. That's going to be A. But check that. That checked. And then we're going to say that the answer came out to be, I believe it was greater than 42, right? Yep, H is greater than 42. They have T. That works. Wait a minute. What's wrong? I goobered it again. That is a minus sign, not a plus sign, which means it's not going to be 42. It's going to be 32. So H is going to be greater than 32 degrees. So from here, check that. And then finally, that means that Monday's high temperature was greater than or more than 32 degrees Fahrenheit. With that, we are done with today's lesson. So you all need to go ahead and stop, start working on your homework assignment, and make sure you're giving me good high quality supporting work like I've been giving you on it so that you can get good high quality credit on your grade for tomorrow.